This video is part of the Move On When Reading Application Support Series and will focus on entering the school-level literacy plan and completing all information for the intervention program section. This video is in direct support of Arizona Revised Statute 15704, which states, each school shall use the diagnostic information to plan evidence-based, appropriate, and effective instruction and intervention. The next section is for intervention programmatic information. First, you will enter all Tier 2 information. Tier 2 reading intervention programs are immediately implemented for students identified below benchmark on the beginning, middle, and/or end of the year universal screener. These students receive additional reading instruction outside of the reading block using ESSA evidence-based intervention materials. Just as you entered core reading programs for each K-3 grade, you will click the Add Intervention Programs button under the heading for Tier 2. Click and select the evidence-based Tier 2 program, grade level, before, during, or after school session, the daily duration spent on Tier 2 intervention, and the number of days per week for this selected product, and hit Save. You will repeat this process for each grade level serviced. This information may be different dependent upon grade level. More than one entry can also be entered for a single grade level. Provide as much information as possible to provide the complete Tier 2 picture for this school year. Intervention programs must meet Arizona legislation, which includes one of ESSA's top 3 tiers of evidence. Only programs which meet this legislative criteria will be populated into the pull-down menu. If your Tier 2 program is not listed in the pull-down menu, have your LEA approver contact Move On When Reading before continuing. Secondary intervention, or Tier 2, is defined as specialized instructional procedures, duration, and frequency delivered in the general education classroom or another setting, and is always in addition to the Tier 1 instructional block to select students determined as below benchmark or at risk for achieving grade-level academic outcomes. Instruction is delivered in small groups recommended of 3 to 6 students by a well-trained teacher or interventionist and designed to explicitly teach specific skill deficits as identified by a valid diagnostic assessment. Tier 2 interventions are recommended to be delivered at least 3 days per week for at least 30 minutes per session or a total of 90 minutes per week. Next, you will scroll down to find the Tier 3 Intensive Intervention Program section. Click the green Add Intensive Intervention Program button to enter the Tier 3 evidence-based program, grade, session, duration, and frequency planned for this school year and representative of the selected product. Should any grade level utilize more than one targeted Tier 3 product, enter all that are applicable. Keep in mind that these should only reflect products that will be in use this school year. Tertiary intervention, or Tier 3, is defined as intensive and individualized instructional procedures, duration, and frequency delivered in the general education classroom or another setting, and is also in addition to the Tier 1 instructional block. This intensified level of support is targeted to select students determined as significantly below benchmark and/or students who are not making adequate progress with the Tier 2 level of support. Instruction is delivered in small groups of no more than 3 students by a well-trained teacher and/or interventionist and designed to explicitly teach specific skill deficits as identified by a valid diagnostic assessment. Tier 3 interventions are recommended all days per week for at least 225 minutes per week for each school student. Once all Tier 2 and Tier 3 programmatic information has been entered, scroll down to the last text box. Consider the targeted programs used with special education for students with identified learning disabilities. Type the names of all programs in use this school year. Also include the grade level if not used with all K-3 students. Verify all Tier 2 programmatic information as well as all Tier 3 information has been entered accurately for each grade level served this year on your campus. Once all intervention and SLD curricular information has been entered, you may click Save My Work and Ready to Submit. If all information has been completed as necessary, you will receive a success notification for both actions, and the Intervention Program tab at the top will now be green. You may close your browser and return to this literacy plan at any time, or you may now move on to the assessment plan portion of the literacy plan. For each component of the literacy plan, the Move On When Reading team has developed specific guidance, which is always available on their administrator's webpage. On the administrator's page of the Move On When Reading website, you can open the Intervention Curriculum Criteria for further information shared today on ARS 15704, legislative criteria, and vendor information. To accompany this information shared with schools and to support all schools with their understanding of the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015, please engage in our webinar series. Created with the support of WestEd, this webinar series was developed to empower educators and literacy leaders to determine levels of evidence and make clearly informed curricular decisions. Continue watching the Move On When Reading Application Support Series for guidance on each step of both the literacy plan and literacy assessment data submission process. As always, please contact Move On When Reading with any additional questions.